I wouldn't be surprised by much at the trade deadline other than them trading prospects for major leaguers. I would be surprised.
Yeah, I would be too. Yeah, we talked about in October, we talked about whether or not they would make changes at the margins or make a big change based on the fade that happened end of August and through September last year.
Yeah.
And we didn't know which way they were going to go. And increasingly, as the offseason went on, we were kind of like, well, they're definitely staying at the margins. Now, that doesn't mean they didn't try to find some way to change the core, quote unquote. Maybe they just didn't find a good fit. Maybe the easiest part of the reason I, give this front office more grace, I think, than you do over their performance over the last 2 years is I take a look at where they were at in October of 2023, and including things like, they thought they had enough money to give Carlos Correa a $30 million a year salary. And then all of that got pulled out from underneath, not to the point where, hey, you can't even make any changes, but to the point where, we're cutting $30 to $40 million worth of payroll. We're cutting 20% of your payroll, more than 20% of your payroll. And so it might very well be that they were trying to figure out some way to add to this lineup last year, maybe by trading prospects, etc. They just couldn't find it, right? But in retrospect, what they needed to do was add to this lineup. I think when people think shake up the core, I think a lot of times they think, we need to rebuild, like we need to trade away players, as opposed to, we got to add somebody, but we have to add somebody without actually adding any salary. So how do we do that?
Yeah, but they're not adding salary anyway. Like, when's the last time they traded for a guy making 15, 18, 20? I mean, they never do that, basically. Like, even when the payroll was decent, like they went out and signed Correa, but in general, they're not trading. They're trading for pre-arbitration or early arbitration guys who are 25, 26, 27, the same type of core guys that we're talking about being on their side. And you're right. They did try, but what is what's his name? Yoda. What does he say? There's no there is no try, only do.
Something like that. Yeah, that's true. Right.
Now I'm a Star Wars guy now because I've never consumed an ounce of Star Wars content in my entire life until this past week, where someone told me I had to watch Andor.
And
I've watched it, and now I'm an expert on all things Star Wars.
Do you like Andor?
I'm quoting Yoda. It's fine.
Okay, it's not great. I haven't seen it yet.
If I had faith that all Star Wars stuff throughout history was similar to that, I would watch more of it.
Sure.
But also, it seems like people are saying this is like a more serious attempt.
I think that's accurate. Yeah,
makes sense why I'd like it. But anyway, there is no try, only do. I don't disagree with most of that. I guess what I would say is the fact that, nobody's ranted more about the effect of the payroll and ownership. We've done that together for years. But one of my, both things can be true type things. It's like, yes, there's so much blame to go to ownership, and they've increased the degree of difficulty on the front office an immense amount. That's all very, very true. But that's the reality. First of all, you have to find a way to make that work. Right. As I noted, they still have one of the highest payrolls in the division. Now, they increased the payroll and then got the kind of carpet pulled out from under them there. But also, that doesn't take away from the fact that they chose to give Carlos Correa that big fat contract, and he's one of the biggest underperformers. Yeah, that doesn't. Money wasn't needed to have better player development. With all these core hitters kind of all collapsing at the same time. And so, I agree with all that. And I think it's not one slice of one pie here in terms of the blame game and where the frustration stems from. I think it starts at the top. Absolutely. I'm just saying there's enough that it flows down to the front office level. they're just been so underwhelming now for so long, both in terms of, individual moves that you could stack and review and all that, and also just the record. At some point, I don't know. And I don't think I would argue that they look massively more promising for 2026. Would you make that argument?
No, that's what was actually kind of the point I was trying to make or get to, was that when we talk about shaking up the core for 2026, I think we need to talk about what can they add and how can they add it. Right. That as we take a look at, no longer having a lot of faith in some of the guys that they were hoping were going to bloom this year and just have absolutely not bloomed this year, or some of the guys that they're like, well, either this guy's going to stick at the infield, or this guy's going to stick in the infield, or this guy's one of these three guys is going to end up, taking over second base and being our, second baseman for the next 3-4 years. I don't think you can do that anymore. And I don't know that you necessarily consider, if we're giving up an Edward Julian, we're giving up on a core player. I don't know. I don't know that's really a core player, right? It's just like at some point you got to be like, yeah, but we just need to get a core player at second base. How do we go and accomplish or whatever position? I'm not specifically saying second base. I'm saying that is the challenge this offseason. And it'll be interesting to see now if that is also their mindset going into the trade deadline. What is our core? Are we trading for, in order to acquire a future core player, a guy we truly believe in, we're going to have to part with something pretty good.
Right. I mean, that was what I was going to say is you're not going to get – look, guys become core players that you didn't know would become core players.
Right.
I mean, guys go from toss-ins to trades. Oh, I mean, Griffin Jacks was a nothing prospect and a bad starter who's now we're talking about as a core player. Should they even trade him? There's all kinds of ways to become an above-average regular in the majors or a core player, whatever the distinction is. But, the odds of getting a future core player in a deadline trade for an impending free agent, Willie Castro or Chris Paddack or Danny Coulombe or, whoever, Harrison Bader, is pretty slim. I mean, that would be an incredibly good trade. I mean, we can certainly point to their best trade they've ever made, which is getting Joe Ryan for 2 months of Nelson Cruz at the trade deadline in 2021. But that was Nelson Cruz.
Sure,
that was a tremendous trade. That is the precise type of trade that if we knew they had the ability to do, we would be saying, make as many of those as you can.
Correct.
Kind of a very close to being ready, high-end young player. And now, obviously, Joe Ryan has blossomed under their development into a far better player than even they could have imagined. But he was a solid starting pitcher almost immediately for them within a month of them acquiring him. Well, we'd be saying, go make that trade for Castro and Bader, and I'd be saying, go make that trade for relief pitchers too if you want.
Sure, right.
But more likely, you're going to get kind of lottery ticket types.
You're right.
In trades for rentals who are not Nelson Cruz level, borderline Hall of Famers. Which doesn't mean you shouldn't do that. I mean, you want to collect as many lottery tickets as you can because you're trying to win the lottery. And, if each one has a 10% odds of turning into something, that may seem with each individual trade, like what's even the use of why is it even worth the hassle? If this guy's only got a 10% chance, this guy we're bringing in, this 21-year-old, whatever, of even getting to the majors. Well, but if you have, 10 of those, you got a much better chance of coming out the other side with at least one quality contributor. And I think obviously that's the goal for the Twins. But I don't know. I mean, I think all of this stuff makes for a lot more subjectivity and a lot more debatability.
Yeah.
But I also just think, their MO being so inactive over the last 2.5 years as a front office, I just think the most likely scenario is just they sell off a few of the impending free agents and they go on with their life, basically.
And welcome to the end of this video. There's lots more. For another, just click on one of these boxes.
Or click on this circle in the middle to subscribe to all of our Twins Talk.
Thank you.
Gleeman